There are two types of people who clicked on this video. One, you saw the thumbnail and were instantly outraged. If that's you, go ahead and click that like button. Around here, we like to form a community of like-minded individuals. Now, if you're the other category and you clicked on this video because you agree with the take in the thumbnail, I advise you to click off of this video now and replay Tears of the Kingdom, because clearly we did not play the same game. After finishing Tears of the Kingdom, I cannot think of a single thing that Breath of the Wild did better than Tears of the Kingdom. Except maybe one thing, maybe one. But other than that, Tears of the Kingdom did everything 10 times as good as Breath of the Wild did. It was so good while playing through every single aspect of the game that at times you wondered if Breath of the Wild was just like a beta playtest for this game, because frankly it seems exactly like it. All of the basic mechanics and controls like fighting and using your runes are pretty much exactly the same. The only thing is that you don't have the same runes. Now you have a bunch of different runes and the enemies are a lot harder. That's one of the big things that I thought was crazy about this game, is the difficulty level. When I was playing through Breath of the Wild, you know, you go through and the weapons slowly get better, right? You'll get your best weapons at Hyrule Castle in the final area. You can find the best weapons, hidden boss fights all over the map. But they gradually got stronger, right? Started out with like 5s and 10s, and then eventually got to like 60s and 70s weapons. At this point where I was fighting white bokoblins who had a ridiculous amount of health with weapons that did like 30 damage, and I didn't realize why I couldn't. And I realized I hadn't been using fuse pretty much the whole game. So all of my weapons were super weak because I had expected the game to just give me strong weapons, and I didn't realize that I actually had to fend for myself and fuse my monster parts to create strong weapons. Even when you get those strong weapons, every enemy in the game still one-shots you for some reason. Now, while that can create a lot of frustration and difficulty throughout the game, I actually think it's a very healthy difficulty. You actually have to be wary about running up on a tribe of bokoblins, because if one of them got a one-off swing on you, you're just insta-dead, and you restart at your last checkpoint. The map has increased by like 3 times, literally 3 times the size. You now have the depths, the regular Hyrule, which is bigger, and the sky, which means that the game is massively enhanced, and that makes for the open world exploration even better. I can't really put into words what I felt the first time that I looked at the map, because as I was traveling around Hyrule, most of the areas were the same, right? I was going through and I was like, oh yeah, this is the path that I took the first time when I was playing in Breath of the Wild. This is the path I took to Hateno Village. I remember grabbing one of the towers right up there on the hill. It's not there anymore. But there were some small things that were different, which made me appreciate the game, and not even just the game, the visuals in certain areas so much. So much could have changed while they kept most of the stuff the same, that it made exploring the same areas all over again super fun, like you were exploring something new. A lot of people were saying before the game came out that it would just be Zelda Breath of the Wild 2.0, and I think that would be a complete understatement, because this is Zelda Breath of the Wild. This is the upgrade of the game. This is the full, complete Breath of the Wild game. It's not an upgrade. It's not 2.0. It is Breath of the Wild. It is the complete full package, along with the sky, along with the depths. Screw the depths, by the way. I hate the depths. What Zelda did in this game, or what the devs did, was create a land that was actually genuinely enjoyable to explore. Like, a lot of the times people are like, oh, they're open world. Like, when people complain about other open world games like Arceus, people complain like, oh, there's this open world, but there's a lot of blank space where there's just like nothing to do. And in Zelda, there is ambience. You're not going to come across enemies every 2 steps. There are open fields. But the way that Zelda's set up is that in the distance, oh, there's a little bokoblin tribe. They're walking around in the distance. Oh, there's some horses or some animals just walking in the fields. It actually feels like an open world game where you're exploring an open world. Not just a world where there's a lot of land to cover to get to your next destination with an enemy here and there. There's set out tribes, there's bases, there's talus with bokoblins setting up their base on top of it. There's wandering spirits, there's dragons. You'll see all of these creatures just around the world with completely different environments depending on where you go. Underground levels, leading straight down to the depths. Look up in the air and there's going to be 6 sky islands above you that contain a different environment. There was just so much more to this game that Breath of the Wild just didn't have. Also, the characters and the story were 10 times as good as Breath of the Wild. One of the biggest complaints for Breath of the Wild was that the story was kind of meh. And I hate to say it, but I do agree. The main story of Breath of the Wild was, okay, 100 years ago, the champions all fell. Now their divine beasts are taken over. Go to each of the 4 divine beasts, help them all free, and then go to Ganon and beat him, right? It was a very simple story. All that happened was, oh, Zelda's also trapped. She's stopping Ganon somehow. We don't really get an explanation on that. And boom, you beat Ganon, and GG's, the game is over. Zelda's back, right? So there wasn't a super complex story. A lot of the characters that you meet were kind of far and few between. They were apart from each other. They weren't super enjoyable characters that were super memorable. In this game, I feel like every single character was memorable. Even some of the side characters that you meet, like Sidon's fiance. Some of the Zora were super cool. You know, small off characters that you wouldn't normally see, and you get to see some characters from last game building, like the guy who, like Hudson, who built Terrytown. You get to see the completion of Terrytown. Like, so much stuff is continuity that is good from the last game just carried straight over to this game because they realized how good it was and realized, yeah, let's just make this even better. You actually get to see Ganon and talk to Ganon. Like, he's a character just before the final fight, right? You get to go up to the castle, you get to fight Ganons, the Phantom Ganons, you get a mystery revealed to you for the first half of the game, and then you get to go back off. There's still more that we have to do before we can truly defeat Ganon, right? There's an actual mystery involved in the game that left me questioning. When the first half of the game, whenever Zelda would show up, I was like, yo, what is Zelda doing? Why is this? There's no way this could be Zelda, right? She's got to be controlled or something. That's a mystery that fueled me through the first half of the game. I was like, okay, I'm enjoying this story. I really want to see what's happening so they can see that big reveal. And then eventually when you got that reveal, it was super satisfying. And then you get the reveal and you're not done yet. There's just so much more to explore. And for someone like me, who was trying to finish the game as fast as possible while still enjoying it, I wanted to get through the main story just so I could see the ending. It still took about 25-30 hours of just gameplay where I was directly going from quest to quest, all of the mainline quests finished, to get through to the final boss and beat the game. However, that's not nearly a 1/20th of the main content in the game that you can explore. And on my route to 100%, you got Koroks, you got shrines, you got exploring the entirety of the depths, finding every item in the game. There's just so much more to this game that Breath of the Wild didn't do. And that's not saying that Breath of the Wild is a bad game by any means. Many people that you'll find will consider Breath of the Wild in the top 10 or even the greatest game of all time. So when you think about Tears of the Kingdom, that does literally everything better than Breath of the Wild, a top 10 or potentially the greatest game of all time, what does that leave to say about this game? The game is so big that even though I'm an avid TikTok user, I'm on TikTok all the time. I've been on TikTok for the last week and I haven't seen a single spoiler of this game. I was able to go through the entire game, finish it completely without a single spoiler of anything that was going to happen in the second half of the game, which is something that in today's standard for a huge game like Zelda with a big story, I almost never see. It's pretty much impossible to go on these social media sites without getting spoiled. Due to the scope of the game, I was able to remain completely spoiler-free going into that second half of the game and that final part, which made it 10 times more enjoyable. Getting to enjoy a game for the first time, getting to see all new cutscenes, not knowing what's going to happen at the end, it really does show you that this game, which does everything in every single aspect better than Breath of the Wild, which is one of the greatest games of all time, I think it really goes to show just how good this game really is.